Those of us that tore through the first half of Stranger Things Season 5 over Thanksgiving weekend have until Christmas to mull over what we've seen, including some of the stranger things about Stranger Things. These are some of the idle thoughts we had about the series so far. Season 5 makes clear out of the gate just how much or how little time has passed since the first season. The very first scene is a flashback to a few days after Will got taken to the Upside Down in Season 1. There's even a title card letting us know it's November 12th, 1983. He got taken by the Demogorgon on November 6th, as Lucas helpfully points out a bit later.
You know what date it is, right? November 3rd. Will was taken on the 6th.
After the opening credits, there's text on screen over the Wheeler house to let us know that present of Season 5 is November 1987. So it's been almost exactly 4 years between Seasons 1 and 5. And, how? How's it only been that long? In our real world, Season 1 started in July 2016. It's been nearly 9.5 long and eventful years for all of us since then. And to put it as politely as we can, it shows. Let's take Will just as an example. The character was 12 in Season 1. Noah Schnapp, the actor who plays him, was actually 11 when the first season premiered. Now Will is 16, but Schnapp is 21. And you can tell. They can give him the most childlike haircut in the world and he still looks like a grown-up. That's true of most of the original kids. It has clearly been more than 4 years. We just have to wonder why the Duffer Brothers couldn't have extended the timeline just a bit. No, you couldn't put Season 5 in, say, 1991. It's Stranger Things. It's gotta be the 80s, but there are 2 more years of the 80s to work with. Dungeons & Dragons has been a key component of Stranger Things from the very start, and Season 5 brings back the notion of the show's characters lining up with the game's class system. When Mike and Holly have their sweet brother-sister moment at the school in Episode 1, he gives her a miniature for Holly the Heroic and assigns her a class.
She's a cleric, which means she has divine powers.
Episode 4 is literally called Sorcerer, tipping the reveal of the ending after Mike tells Will,
In real life, you're more like a sorcerer, because your powers don't come from a book of spells, they're innate.
So if Holly's a cleric and Will's a sorcerer, what's everyone else? In Season 2, Mike revealed to Max what everyone is in the game they all play.
I'm our paladin, Will's our cleric, Dustin's our bard, Lucas is our ranger, and Elle's our mage.
They can all have classes because they seem to trade off being Dungeon Master. Mike is DM in Season 1, but Will handles it at least once in Season 3. Obviously, some of the classes have changed since then. Will has handed off Cleric to Holly, it seems, and taken up the Sorcerer class. The rest fit fairly well, though would argue Eleven is probably also a sorcerer or a wizard rather than a standard mage. If we can include it, Dustin's definitely an artificer rather than a bard, given his tinkering abilities. So what about everybody else? Well, Erica's a rogue, specifically. Max suggests that she can be a zoomer, which isn't a real class, but her attempt to convince Mike it could be makes her a rogue, through and through. Nancy's a fighter, probably, but if we're using the gunslinger class, she's that. Girl has always got a gun. We'll say Jonathan's a monk, given how introspective he is. Hopper's a barbarian.
Those guys I'd kill them 100 times over. I'd kill 1,000 guys like you. Protect one person that I've loved.
Steve is a little harder to classify. Above all, he's a charmer, so we'll say he's a rogue, specifically in the swashbuckler subclass. Joyce, we don't know about Joyce. A druid? We don't have one of those. Let us know what you think and what the other characters we haven't mentioned might line up to. We could go all day with this. Barbs would be a corpse. Was that a class? Stranger Things Season 4 ended with what seemed like everyone ready to go to war. While our heroes managed to gun down Vecna, Max also temporarily died, opening the 4th and final gate to the Upside Down. That led to a pretty freaking cool cliffhanger where the Upside Down seemed to be invading Hawkins. Surely we couldn't be the only ones thinking that was setting up some wild action in the middle of the right side up version of Hawkins. You know, Demogorgons tearing through the streets, terrorizing people while Hopper and the gang gave chase in a souped-up police car or something. Well, it wasn't. Season 5 makes it pretty clear that the US military swooped in. The big crack in the ground that opened when Max died got patched over with a giant steel band-aid. And there was no upside-down invasion to speak of. Instead, everything just kind of went quiet for about 20 months. Vecna went AWOL, and the military quarantined the town. We know, right after we asked for an extended timeline, now we're asking the show to have picked up right where it left off more than 3 years after the end of Season 4. But they did that! They set up that cliffhanger, it's not our fault! While we're at it, the military quarantine of Hawkins is pretty oddly relaxed, all told. Kids are still going to school, even if a few of them are being taken to a base for protection. Cheez-Its are still readily available. A lot of the public seems pretty unbothered by it all. Ted Wheeler's more upset about his golf swing than the US government seizing his town. At least until he gets gored by a Demogorgon. Let's go back to Season 3 for a second. You know, the mall season. It had a mall because they were a big deal in the 1980s, but they couldn't just have a mall. No, the Duffer Brothers had to make Starcourt Mall integral to the season's plot somehow. Or at least they clearly thought they did. So they made this huge, brightly lit building that attracted thousands of people every day into a Soviet front for an underground base? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you think about it even for a second. Why not build your secret underground base somewhere far more inconspicuous than a literal gathering place where people shop, see movies, and work? Yeah, we get why it's like that for plot reasons. Steve, Robin, and Dustin needed something to do while working at Ahoy Ice Cream.
This code, it didn't come from Russia. It came from here.
But in-universe, the Soviet government was just not thinking this through. They may have gotten an opportunity to Hawkins' corrupt mayor, but that doesn't mean they had to take the first offer. The mall could have absolutely still been the place where Elle and the gang had their big final showdown with the Mind Flayer, but also making it where the Soviet base was, it's just not very serious. Honestly, Season 3 is the one that doesn't take itself all that seriously. And for some fans, that's fine. It's fun, even. But it doesn't match up to the tone of the rest of the series. Speaking of things that don't make sense, Stranger Things definitely wanted you to know that Holly Wheeler getting taken to the Upside Down didn't immediately track for other characters.
It makes no sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
How does any of this make sense?
I don't know.
Same goes for Holly's imaginary friend, Mr. What's-It, being real.
It doesn't make sense.
All those quotes are from episode 2 of season 5, and look, we get it. Fans like, us nitpick everything and look for plot holes whether they're holes or not. This is clearly the Duffer Brothers, the credited writers of the episode, trying to stave off fan complaints about contrivances or things being confusing. See? The characters are confused too! But this is a little much, right? It's really noticeable by the third or fourth time a character says some variation of, "This doesn't make sense." And honestly, do we really need this much consternation over a child being abducted and taken to the Upside Down? Will didn't have anything to do with anything when he got taken. This one at least seems like something fans would accept and wait for the explanation for, which does eventually come when the new and improved Vecna finally appears. It's not unusual for people to have favorite songs they listen to over and over again, or you just stream the one song and don't worry about the rest of the album. But here's the thing. We know Max Mayfield has the entire tape of Kate Bush's Hounds of Love. We see it in Season 4. Yet we've only ever heard her listening to track 1, Running Up That Hill, A Deal with God. Even after she's in a coma in Season 5, it's the only song Lucas plays for her in the hospital. There's even that weird moment where the tape stops, mid-song, and Lucas has to rewind it. Did he make a mixtape of just that song on repeat? Whatever the case, we just wonder if she ever got to track 2, the album's title track, on any listen. Or did she always just stop and rewind the tape? Yes, there's a reason why Running Up That Hill is the only song in the show. They only wanted to pay to license that one song. Sure, but like, in the reality of the show, did Max ever listen to Hounds of Love or Cloudbursting? She'd probably like them. Some deaths really matter on Stranger Things. Barb's led to a whole investigation. Max was really motivated by Billy's. Dustin is very protective of Eddie's memory. Even the soldiers who died in the helicopter Eleven took down had an impact on the soldiers in Season 5. But what about all the deaths that don't seem to matter? In particular, we mean the dozens, if not hundreds, of Hawkins residents who got turned into goo and became part of the Mind Flayer's gross monster body in Season 3. Yes, Season 3 again. This was mass death on a level that would usually lead to a pretty big reckoning. A town-wide mourning, at least. And yet, we don't really see any of that on the show to speak of. Season 3 ends with the characters mostly being upset over Billy's death or the perceived demise of Hopper. All we get acknowledging the more wide-scale carnage is a news report.
A terrible tragedy struck this small town. But this was not this small town's first brush with tragedy.
At the start of Season 4, things seem pretty normal until another single death, Chrissy's, sets people off. And people don't start leaving town until the big crack rips the town in half. But what about all the Mind Flayer victims? Where's the justice for them? Justice for the goo people!